Okay. Hi, I'm Leslie Combemale. I am lead contributor for the Alliance of Women Film Journalists. And with me today is Sherenté Harris. And they are the subject of a wonderful new documentary called BeingThunder, which is from documentarian Stephanie Lamorre, who is supposed to be here with us, but something's keeping her. So we're going to just press on, it'll be just as fascinating, I'm sure. And I'm excited to ask Sherenté a few questions about the film and about themselves. So thank you so much for talking to me today. I'm so excited.
Monikisa, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. So the first thing I want to know is uh, having having a filmmaker in your family kind of experience and space. How did you get used to that? How did you sort of make peace with that as you were going about your day in terms of as a family and as you personally? Because she started filming when you were 16. So this is a teenager going through a lot of stuff. I mean, kind of uber stuff, because as a person of color, as a two-spirit, that's a lot. And then just as a teenager. So can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, my family is from the woods of South County, Rhode Island, right off our reservation lands. And so having a complete stranger come into our home was definitely a huge shift for us. Uh, we actually, there was a period where Stephanie started filming when I was 14. I don't know how much of that footage actually is in the final film. That evades me at the moment, but uh, this was a conversation across different countries, across that great ocean. And I think for us, the biggest concern was trying to make sure that uh, our people who are so invisible in our own state could be seen in a proper way. And I think that's always a big difficulty for Indigenous people, is working with non-Native people to tell our story. And I think that's the reason why we need more Indigenous people telling our own stories. But I think this was a beautiful opportunity where a story that never would have been captured, that never would have been uplifted. Stephanie saw something in me and in my family that she thought was worth sharing. And so at the end of the day, whatever she saw and whatever spoke to her, um, I'm just so grateful that she saw something.
And gratitude and thankfulness is a major part of Indigenous culture, and specifically the Narragansett. And can you share a little bit about how that spoke to you in terms of really coming out and becoming an activist around being a two-spirit?
Yeah, gratitude is at the heart of everything that we do. Uh, our people have traditionally, you hear about the first Thanksgiving that is coming up in this month, but historically, our people celebrated Thanksgiving celebrations throughout the year. We would have 13 Thanksgivings that correlated with the lunar calendar. And when we talk about giving thanks, uh, it is a way of keeping balance. And, we can see in our world today, we take and take and take so much. We always must remember to give something back to maintain that balance. And sometimes when you don't have anything else to give, what you always can give is gratitude. And through that gratitude, you're doing something greater than just that act of saying thank you. It also, internally, psychologically, is making a difference in the way that you engage with that relation, that relative that you are giving thanks to, whether it is the earth or the trees or the waterways or the animals. When you give thanks, you are acknowledging that thing as a being. And so you are not going to mistreat it or overwork it. And when we dance, those are prayers. That is our way of giving thanks. And the greatest dancers are out there giving thanks. And that I've always been taught that when we dance, we don't dance to try and win or outdo someone else. We dance with our ancestors in mind, with all of our relations in mind, giving thanks that we still can dance, and we dance for those that cannot dance.
And for you, as I understand it, when I was in the documentary, it's about the fact that, I mean, in order to be thankful authentically, you have to also be authentic as yourself, right? So that's kind of, was that really the germ of, all right, you had been dancing your father's dance, and then you wanted to switch to doing the Fancy Shawl dance, which is the dance of your mother. And so because of your two-spiritedness, you wanted to be able to do either or both, right? So can you share a little bit about first your decision to do that, and also the history of the Fancy Shawl? Because I love that. That's especially for the Alliance of Women Film Journalists and people who consider themselves feminists. It's really important to understand where you're coming from about this, because there's a sort of interesting dovetail with progressive perspectives in America, and trying to be a little bit more open to indigenous culture and respect and uplift the work of the indigenous peoples. So can you talk a little bit about all that?
Yeah, the Fancy Shawl dance is the most contemporary intertribal powwow dance that exists today. Our people are not a static people. And I think when a lot of people go to powwows, which the word powwow actually comes from a Narragansett word, powwow, which means a medicine person. Our powwows are not events that are recreations of the past or reenactments. They are continuations of our celebrations, and they are very much contemporary in many senses. And so the Fancy Shawl dance really is an emblem of that continuation, of that evolution, of that growth, where during the women's rights movement, women went out dancing this new style of dance, adopting the fancy dance style. And the original women that went out and danced, I have had the opportunity to speak with some of those elders. They were outcast. They were, really not welcomed. And there are even some stories of people cheering or throwing things at people, or stopping things and getting them out of the dance circle. The Fancy Shawl dance, in that way, is a dance of liberation, because those women that were dancing, they didn't stop. They persisted. And today, the Fancy Shawl dance is one of the largest intertribal dances that are danced. So I see the dance similarly as a dance of liberation for my two-spirit people. And it was surely a dance of liberation for myself. And I actually was able to see a little video clip of me at this powwow that I remembered as a child, dancing in with my father and seeing the Fancy Shawl dancers as all the dancers are coming in the grand entry that opens the event. And just being in awe at these beautiful women and wanting to dance with them. So this was me outwardly showing my community who I was in a way that was palpable, that could be felt, and wasn't just in words. I think so much of our ceremony, which is at the heart of who we are and reminding ourselves of who we are, our ceremony is all based in experience and in feeling. It's one thing knowing something in abstract terms and ideas, but when you really understand it in a felt way, you carry that with you throughout the rest of your life. And I think that that is why my activism has been able to change the minds of so many people and change, the policies at powwow to accept people like me. And just this past summer, at a powwow where I had not been allowed to dance, I just placed first, and the first people to cheer for me and to be so excited and happy for me were all of the women, and the women that were dancing in my category alongside me. So I am exceptionally grateful that I had parents that were dancers and storytellers and culture bearers at such a young age.
It's interesting too about the sort of some of the problems inside the powwow and the culture of kind of embracing the colonialist kind of perspective that there's only two genders, and it's so contrary to the entire philosophy around the fancy shawl, right? Obviously, given what you were just talking about, and we were, before we started recording, talking about how you see sort of that narrow perspective and people kind of keeping themselves small as being a sickness. And I think not having a level of gratitude that you're talking about, really embracing on an everyday basis, I think that's really keeping so many people narrow and small, and making rules like fancy shawls only for this tiny little group of people. And I'm interested in how you feel about how gratitude, because it really is central, as we were talking about, to everything that you do, how as an activist now, looking back on the film, but also now, how gratitude really is the key to kind of opening up some of the problems around, even I'm sure there are some persisting in powwows and in indigenous culture, some that has sort of been stuck in there from colonialist view, and just in a larger world sense, the whole world, because your message is bigger even than indigenous culture, right? I think your message is about gratitude and open-heartedness leading to acceptance to a wider group of people.
Absolutely. I think at the end of the day, all of our traditions and our teachings, they come back to this central concept that we are all relations. And when we say we are all relations, we are talking about all of creation, not just our family or
People,
human beings.
right?
And when we give thanks, we are actively acknowledging the beings that are all around us as such, as things that are worthy of thanks. And when we have those kinds of interactions with the world around us, we start to project and see, a bridge starts to appear between us, where we understand that that being that you are speaking to or you are regarding is a part of you, is inextricably connected to you. And our two spirit people are extremely symbolic of that, of these things that seem so separate from each other, men and women, what is masculine and feminine. You start to see these things start to coalesce within a single being. And that's what creation is. You know, we might have senses of absolutes within us, but those are ideals more than they are reality. And we can get so caught up in our minds and you know, the terms that are instilled in our minds of what the rules are, what our roles are, who, you know, we are expected to be, that you can start to forget that the messiness of life is some of the most beautiful parts of it all. And that there are no strict, stringent rules in life. And my people knew this very intimately with our knowledge of the various different life ways of the animal peoples and the plant peoples all around us. They all have their own customs and traditions that are wildly different than our own. And so we as people might have our own traditions and teachings, but within that, we need to remember that our traditions and our teachings cannot be too taught, or else they will become brittle and they will break us. And we will lose the things that make us who we are. We need to remember that there are no strict rules in life. And that so long as we lead with our hearts, with understanding and kindness. When the first, for example, when the first colonists arrived here, my people are a people of first contact in North America. Giovanni de Verrazzano came to North America in the 1500s, and he was the first European to record his journey here. And he stops in the Narragansett Bay. And he writes that our people are the most beautiful people that he has encountered on this voyage, and that we are much taller than they are and extremely healthy, and that we live long lives and that our lives end with old age and we rarely fall sick. But he also writes that we are exceedingly generous and that we give away all that we have. Even to these strangers, we were ready and willing to give. And we call that Nakomo, our people, the giveaway. And I was taught as a young person that we must give away all that we have until it hurts. And when you have a community of people doing that, of giving away everything until it hurts, no one is truly hurting, because you never need to worry yourself about not having enough, because we are all family and we're all there to help each other.
Beautiful. Well, I think that's kind of the lesson of the documentary more than anything. Can you lastly share a little bit about you're at RISD, you're at Brown, you're studying indigenous history and culture, and you're in the painting department, but we were talking earlier, which is actually a bit larger. You're able to express yourself artistically in a really wide variety of ways. Can you talk about how the experience of being in the documentary and of dancing in powwow has inspired some of the work that you're creating now, and what you're hoping to do as an artist?
As an artist, the heart of my work is speaking to the dreams of my people, my Narragansett people, my two-spirit people. And through that lens, all people to revitalize our old ways. And, my people long ago, we would carry around sacred objects, sacred things that would remind us of our stories, our personal stories and our communal stories, and center us. And I see my artwork as serving that end, of reminding us that we are all relations. And I also see my writing, which this is the rough draft of my first novel, which is telling the story of my journey through dance and being two-spirit, but it is told through the lens of my people as a traditional story, a spiritual journey, and grappling with issues of intergenerational trauma, tribal corruption, how we can heal from those wounds and those sicknesses of colonization through our ceremonies. And I feel so blessed that I have been welcomed from high school into the undergraduate programs of this Ivy League institution at Brown and this top art school. I'm about to graduate this year, and it really is a historic moment as, the first Narragansett person to graduate from this dual degree program at both of these institutions. And our people have not been properly represented because we have so many stories to share. And I think this is just the beginning. I have actually managed to work with Brown in their land acknowledgement process to agree to create an initiative to accept more Narragansett and indigenous students into this very gate-kept institution.
That's
Brown and
wonderful.
RISD have changed my life absolutely for the better.
Wonderful. Stephanie's going to pop in for a second. I guess we'll ask her one question before we're out of here. Let's see. Here she comes. In theory. Hi, Stephanie. No, well.
Oh, hello?
Hello. Hello.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can
You know what? Because she told me 4 p.m.
Ah,
and it's 3:30.
c'est pas la même chose. Oui, je sais.
C'est pas la même chose.
So can you make yourself visible?
Sherente. Sorry.
Hello.
Hello, Sherente.
How are you,
Sorry.
Stephanie?
Oh, I'm good. I'm sorry. I'm in the editing room. I have no camera. You are so
Okay.
beautiful, my dear. Oh, sorry. Yes, let's go.
No,
Let's go. Sorry.
Yeah, they do look beautiful. So we got to talking. It was wonderful. We had a great chat. I was just going to ask you to finish off our interview with one last question, which is, what are you hoping people will be inspired by in your film? Why do you think it's important for people to see it?
Is a question addressed to me?
Yes, it's to you.
I mean, for me, it was very important to tell the story of Sherente, to talk about different things: the community of people from Rhode Island, the reality of two-spirited people, and it was really about that. I actually, when I did start the documentary, it was like maybe 5 years ago now, so it was not so fashion in a certain way to talk about, gender fluidity, non-binary person, etc. So I'm very happy that now it's much more, I mean, in the in the media and everywhere. But basically, my purpose and my desire to do this documentary, first, it was because I kind of fall in love with Sherenté. You know, I saw her in a video with her sister, and I was fascinated by them. So you know, it was a mix between tell the story of this family of Sherenté and more globally about this community and again the reality of the life, you know.
And what are you hoping for people who see the film? What are you hoping that they will be in? Why do you think it's important for people to see this film?
To open the mind. I mean, open the eyes, open their mind, open the soul, open the heart. Like, come on, guys, we are in 2022, you know, when you hear stories or see still stories about discrimination, homophobia, etc., it's like, come on, you know, we have to reconnect. We have to reconnect by, you know, by heart and by soul and you know, with people. It's so I think this story and Sherenté's story and character is a perfect, you know, representation of that, because Sherenté and her whole family is so connected, you know, to her. So for me, it's a global purpose finally, you know. So I hope people will really, yes, be touched and will maybe, think about more with more love, if I can say that. Sorry for my English, you know, I was speaking French all day, so I'm like, oh my God, long time.
Non, c'est parfait.
You know.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry again, you know, long time not speaking English. Yeah.
No, it's wonderful. Thank you so much. I think also to finish the our Zoom, I think one of the things that's the most clear, the most inspiring is I think some people forget how impassioned and how powerful and how inspired teenagers can be, and you know, going beyond
exactly
the story
definitely
of spirit, you know, because there's so much going on spiritually, and you were so articulate. I mean, you obviously are now, but now you're a grown-up human. And this was something where this is a 16-year-old. It's shockingly inspiring to see someone so, you know, and you see them in the gun control advocates that are teenagers. You see them, but I think any opportunity to be reminded that the young souls of our world are where we should be looking to be inspired to how to keep our hearts open.
Definitely. And yeah, if I can just add, the first email I did receive from Sherenté, I was like, wow, you know, wow, oh my God. Like, I think Sherenté was 14 or, you know, recently 15, and it was so mature and full of everything. So, yeah.
Well, two spirits are considered some of the wise people of the tribe, right? So they're born with an awareness and understanding that kind of transcends a lot of other people's understanding. So I think we're all very blessed to have the opportunity for this film to exist. Thank you, Stephanie, for creating it. And
well, thank you to their family. You know, it was really, they reopened their doors and everything to me. You know, I feel so blessed for all what I've lived with them, and you know what they let me film and get in, actually, you know.
Thank you both so much for your time. I love talking to both of you. Thank you for taking time away from your editing. I'm sure you were right.
I'm really sorry. You know, it's a mistake because we changed time in France.
Right. Last
weekend.
Yes.
So May, she told me 4 p.m. So I was like, okay, 4 p.m., you know, so I was super relaxed. And then, you know, I was.
C'est parfait. It was great. It's
sorry.
Been a wonderful talk. So I so appreciate it. Thank you both for your time, and good luck. I hope a lot of people see the film. Thank you so much.
Thanks to you, Sherenté.
I love hearing your voice, Stephanie.
You look amazing. You're like Dior, you know, like the advertising for Dior. You know, le rouge de Dior. No, I'm serious. You know, le rouge de Dior, the red from Dior. It's like, yeah. Okay.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Love
Bye-bye.
you.
Love